Imagine standing in the heart of ancient Rome. The sun is hot, the sky is blue, and dust rises from the ground. You walk through a giant stone arch and suddenly, you see it, a huge arena, round like a giant bowl, with hundreds of stone seats climbing high like steps to the sky. This is the Colosseum. It is one of the most famous buildings in the world. But it is not just a building. It is a place full of history, drama, and stories that can make your heart beat faster. The Colosseum was built almost 2,000 years ago. It was started in the year 72, during the rule of Emperor Vespasian. His son, Emperor Titus, finished the building in the year 80. It took only about 8 years to build. That is very fast, especially for something so big and strong. In Latin, the old language of Rome, it was called the Flavian Amphitheater, because the emperors who built it were from the Flavian family. The name, Colosseum, came later. Some people think it comes from a big statue, the Colossus of Nero, that once stood near the arena. The Colosseum was not a quiet place. It was loud and wild. People came here to watch games. But these were not just sports like today. They were deadly fights. Gladiators, men trained to fight, fought each other. They also fought wild animals like lions, tigers, and bears. Sometimes the fights were between men and even crocodiles or elephants. These shows were called munera, and they were meant to show the power of the Roman Empire and the bravery of its people. Tens of thousands of people came to the Colosseum. It could hold more than 50,000 people. That is like a modern football stadium. Rich people sat in the best seats, close to the arena. Poor people sat higher up. The emperor had his own special seat. Everyone came to see the blood, the action, and the glory. The floor of the Colosseum was wood, covered with sand. Under the floor, there were tunnels and cages. These tunnels were called the hypogeum. Gladiators and animals waited there before the fights. Sometimes they came up to the arena through hidden doors or lifts. The sand on the floor helped to soak up the blood. Yes, there was a lot of blood. These fights were very dangerous. Most gladiators were slaves or prisoners. They did not fight because they wanted to. They fought because they had no choice. But some of them became heroes. The crowd loved them. Their names were shouted. People cheered when they won. Some gladiators became very famous. There are many stories and legends about the Colosseum. One legend says that Christians were thrown to the lions there. This might be true in part, but most modern historians think that it did not happen as often as people say. Still, the Colosseum is a symbol for Christian martyrs. The Pope even visits it on Good Friday for a special prayer. The Romans loved shows that were big and surprising. Sometimes they filled the arena with water and made it look like a lake. Then, they held sea battles called naumachii. Boats floated on the water and men fought on them. This is hard to believe, but ancient writers said it really happened. Some modern experts think it might not be true, or maybe it happened in a different place. But in Rome, almost anything was possible. The Colosseum was also used for plays and dramas. They made scenes from old myths and stories. But these shows were not like quiet theater. They were full of action, and sometimes even real death. If the story said that someone was eaten by a monster, the Romans might use a real lion or tiger to play the monster. They loved shock and surprise. But the Colosseum was not always a place of death. Sometimes it was used for peaceful things too. People gave speeches there. Some emperors used it to give food to the poor. It was also a place where people came to feel Roman. It made them proud. It showed the greatness of the empire. After a few hundred years, things began to change. Rome was no longer as powerful. People stopped using the Colosseum for games. Earthquakes broke parts of it. People took stones from it to build other things. But the Colosseum never disappeared. It was too big, too strong, and too full of history. Even today, it stands in the middle of Rome. Tourists come from all over the world to see it. It is not just a building. It is a voice from the past. It tells us about the people who lived 2,000 years ago. It shows their power, their art, their love of drama, and also their love of violence. And maybe, if you stand in the center of the Colosseum, close your eyes, and listen, you can still hear the crowd. You can hear the cheers, the roars, the clash of swords, and the growl of lions. You can feel the heartbeat of ancient Rome. The Colosseum stood for many years as the center of life in ancient Rome. But time changes everything. After the Roman Empire began to fall, so did the Colosseum. It was not broken all at once. It happened slowly, over centuries. The last gladiator fights were in the 5th century. After that, the Roman government said these games were not right anymore. The world was changing. Christianity was growing stronger, and many people believed that killing for sport was wrong. Also, Rome was not rich like before. There was not enough money for big shows. The Colosseum became quiet. No more crowds. No more lions. It stood there, huge and empty. But it was still useful. People used it as a place to live. They built houses inside it. Some used it as a market. Others used the tunnels below for stables or storage. Over time, earthquakes shook the land. Stones fell from the walls. Rain and wind damaged it more. But the biggest damage came from people. Builders took stones from the Colosseum to make new buildings. They said, "Why go to the mountains for stone when we have the Colosseum right here?" The big marble blocks were perfect for churches and palaces. Even St. Peter's Basilica has stones from the Colosseum. Still, the Colosseum did not die. It was wounded, but it stood tall. In the Middle Ages, it became a symbol. People looked at it and remembered the glory of ancient Rome. Later, in the 18th and 19th centuries, people became more interested in history. They wanted to protect the Colosseum, not take it apart. Restoration began. That means people worked to save it, clean it, and stop more damage. One pope said the Colosseum is a holy place. Another planted a cross in the middle. They said it was a place where Christians died for their faith. We now know that not many Christians were killed there. But the idea stayed strong. Even today, some people visit it as if it were a sacred site. There are more stories, legends that sound like movies. One old story tells about a ghost. At night, some people say you can hear the cries of gladiators. Others say they saw a man in armor walking inside the dark tunnels. Some say the Colosseum is cursed. But maybe, people just feel the power of the past. When a place has seen so much blood, so much death, and so much life, it never forgets. Another story tells of a young gladiator who fell in love with the daughter of a Roman noble. They were from different worlds. He was a fighter. She was rich. They met in secret under the Colosseum. But when the emperor found out, he ordered the gladiator to fight to the death. The girl cried and begged. But her tears did not stop the emperor. The gladiator fought bravely and died. The story says she jumped into the arena and died beside him. Is this true? No one knows. But people love stories, and the Colosseum has many. The name, Colosseum, may come from the Colossus, a giant statue of Emperor Nero that once stood nearby. It was over 30 meters tall, like a modern building. The statue is gone now, but the name stayed. It's a good name. Colosseum means, colossal, or very, very big. And this building is big. Even today, it is one of the largest ancient structures still standing. Over the years, people from all over the world have visited the Colosseum. It has been in paintings, books, and films. It is a symbol not only of Rome, but of human history. It reminds us of the power of empires, the cruelty of the past, and the beauty of great architecture. The Colosseum has survived fire, war, earthquakes, and time. And still, it welcomes visitors. You can walk inside and feel the cool air of the tunnels. You can sit on the ancient stone seats and imagine the roar of the crowd. You can stand in the arena and look up, just like the gladiators did. It feels like a dream. It feels like you are in another time. People ask, should we have saved the Colosseum? It was a place of death. Thousands died there. But the answer is yes. Because history must be remembered. The Colosseum is like a mirror. When we look at it, we see who we were, and who we are now. We see the good and the bad in people. We see strength and weakness. Love and hate. Courage and fear. Today, the Colosseum is one of the most visited places in the world. Millions come every year. They take photos. They listen to guides. They learn about ancient Rome. But most of all, they feel something. The Colosseum speaks to them. It says, I am still here. I saw it all. And I remember. The Colosseum was not just a place of blood. It was also a place of dreams. For the Romans, it was the dream of power. For the gladiators, it was the dream of survival, or even glory. For many, it was fear. And for some, it was hope. Gladiators came from many places. Some were slaves taken in war. Some were criminals. But not all of them. Some men joined by choice. These men hoped to win prizes and fame. If they were brave and lucky, they could become free. Some did. They became stars. They were rich, loved by the crowd. Their faces were on paintings and statues. Children played with wooden figures shaped like them. People cheered their names. One famous gladiator was called Flamma. He fought many battles and was given freedom 4 times, but he refused it. He said, "This is my life." He died in the arena. A hero to the people. Each gladiator had a style. Some wore heavy armor and carried big swords. Others had small nets and tridents, like fishermen. Some fought with one hand, using a small shield. The Romans loved to see different styles fight each other. It was like a deadly dance. The crowd in the Colosseum was part of the show. They shouted. They pointed. They laughed and cried. Sometimes, when a gladiator lost, the emperor asked the crowd, should he live? If the crowd liked the fighter, they put out their thumbs to show mercy. If not, they turned their thumbs down. This was not just a game. It was real life. A man's fate was in the hands of the people. 1 second could change everything. But the Colosseum was not only for gladiators. There were also animal hunts. These shows were called venations. Wild animals were brought from all over the empire, lions from Africa, tigers from Asia, bears from the mountains. Hunters fought them with spears and arrows. Sometimes, hundreds of animals were killed in one day. It was a way for Rome to say, we control the world. Even nature obeys us. But it was also cruel. Many animals were trapped, hurt, or killed just for fun. Today, we look back and feel sadness for them. There were other shows too. People were burned alive, or eaten by animals, as punishment for crimes. Some of these people were innocent. Others were just unlucky. But the crowd did not always care. They came for the show. Still, we must remember that Rome was not the only place in history with cruel games. The Colosseum is famous not because people died there, but because it still stands. It lets us see the past. Other places, other stories, have been lost in time. The Colosseum remains. And it speaks. It tells stories not only of death, but of beauty. Its walls were once white and shining. Its columns were tall and proud. It had statues all around. There were fountains and flags. It was not just a building. It was a wonder. Even broken, it is still beautiful. When you walk through it, you feel small. The stones are big. The sky above is wide. You think of the people who sat there. You think of the fighters who stood below. You imagine the music, the sounds of trumpets and drums. The smell of sweat, dust, blood, and perfume. The air full of life and fear. And you feel connected. Because they were people, just like us. They had hopes. They had families. They were strong and weak. They were kind and cruel. They were not so different. One man, a writer from many centuries ago, said something powerful. He wrote, "While the Colosseum stands, Rome shall stand. When the Colosseum falls, Rome shall fall. And when Rome falls, the world shall fall." That was a long time ago. But it shows how important the Colosseum felt to people. It was more than stone. It was a symbol of power, of history, of life itself. Now, in modern times, the Colosseum is protected. It is a treasure. People come to learn. To walk in the steps of the past. At night, lights shine on its walls. It glows golden in the dark. Sometimes, concerts or events are held nearby. Sometimes, it is quiet, watching the stars. But always, it is there. Waiting. Remembering. Maybe that is the true story of the Colosseum. Not the fights. Not the emperors. Not even the building itself. But memory. The Colosseum is a memory made of stone. It holds the pain and power of a whole civilization. It tells us who we were. It asks us who we are. And maybe, it helps us think about who we want to be. In this way, the Colosseum is still alive. It stands in the heart of Rome like a beating drum. Its sound is old, but strong. It calls to us. And when we listen, we are part of the story too. The Colosseum stands today as more than a ruin. It is a living story. A story made of stone, of echoes, of time. When you walk around it, you see tourists taking pictures, guides telling facts, children running with excitement. But if you stop for a moment and listen, you may hear something else. A whisper. A memory. A voice from the past. Every corner of the Colosseum holds something. A broken stair. A shadow in the tunnel. A name scratched into the wall. You begin to understand, this place is full of life, even if that life is now long gone. It is like walking through a dream. A dream of history, of people, of power and pain. Many empires rise and fall. Many cities change. But the Colosseum remains. Not perfect. Not new. But still standing. Still proud. Still Roman. Some say that buildings do not have feelings. That they are just walls and bricks. But the Colosseum feels different. It seems to breathe. It holds the sadness of lost lives. The pride of a powerful time. The silence of 1,000 nights. And the hope that we remember. And we do remember. Every year, over 7 million people visit the Colosseum. They come from every country. They come to learn. To see. To feel. And many of them leave changed. Because when you touch the old stones, when you walk where gladiators once walked, something moves inside you. You feel time. You feel human history. And you feel connected. Not just to the past, but to all people. Because the Colosseum is not only about Rome. It is about what people can build. And what people can destroy. It shows both our greatness and our mistakes. In the end, the Colosseum teaches us something important. It teaches us that strength is not only in muscle or power. It is also in memory. In stories. In what we choose to keep. In what we choose to tell the next generation. Maybe one day, even the Colosseum will fall. Maybe wind and rain will take the last stone. But the story will remain. Because now, the Colosseum lives in books. In films. In hearts. And in the voices of those who tell its tale. And that is you, now. If you listen to this story, you are part of it. You know what the Colosseum is. You carry its memory. You carry its meaning. So next time you see a picture of it, or hear the name, you will not just think, it is a big building in Rome. You will know. You will remember the fights, the glory, the lions, the dreams, the legends, the stones. You will hear the roar of the crowd. And you will smile, because you understand. The Colosseum is not silent. It still speaks. And now, you speak with it.